Yeah, I agree. That was that was really good. Why have I got to follow that? But I will try. Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you've had a great day so far. I've certainly enjoyed it so far, and certainly have already learned a lot. And that kind of bleeds into what I'm going to talk about now a little bit for you. I think Tom set the day up really well at the start by listing out, what are we going to take away from today? We're going to take away a to-do list. Mine's already gotten longer, and I think that, like I said, that does bleed into what I'm going to talk about a little bit today. Ideas to implement. I think you've heard from some fantastic specialists in the room throughout the day, and some to come as well, about some of the actual ways of implementing some of the stuff that you've probably been thinking about. And some entertainment. Now, I can't pretend I'm going to provide any entertainment, especially not to the level we've just seen, but I can certainly try and think about that to-do list and think about how we can break that down a little bit, and take us up a little level, actually, out of the real day-to-day and the nitty-gritty, and think about how we structure. Because what I wanted to do was kind of give a bit of an overview of my thoughts, my opinions, my views, and also views perhaps of people I've been talking about around, let me get this right, around the digital marketing landscape as a whole, because it's a fantastic industry. We all work in it and we all love it. It can go very, very granular. It can go very, very high at strategy level, but it can be quite complicated. And this is a bit of a personal opinion, but it's an opinion I know from sharing with a few people around the room, not just today, but obviously in other events and across our networks as well. It can be quite complicated. We all want to be innovative. We all want to achieve our results. We all want to drive our business forward. But how do we balance that kind of complexity? How do we think about the things that we're doing? Are they making a difference? Are we aligning ourselves properly? Are we being strategic to actually achieve these results? So I wanted to pose a few questions and think about that for you guys for the rest of the afternoon, and for the work that you guys are doing. I'm sure everyone's doing some really good jobs, but how are we navigating this complexity? Is it difficult? Are we afraid to say, actually, I'm a little bit confused? How do we structure it a little bit better? So we're going to try and cover some of those things off this afternoon for you now. So this took about 30 milliseconds to put together. There are lots of different terms going on, and all of these are great. All of the things that are listed here, plus all the other ones which you could come together if you set a 5-second timer and wrote down all the different things that are going on in the digital marketing landscape at the minute. I'm sure you'd come up with a whole new list, and that's kind of my point now. All of these things in isolation are absolutely right. I think there are some really good big things around what we heard about this morning from Ellie around AI. I think that's really important. Big data, we've heard about that. But it's complicated. There's lots of different aspects to it. How do we knit it all together? How do we think about all of this stuff? All this stuff going forward. And I thought, looking at some of this list when I was putting this presentation together, trying to come up with some different ideas that I hadn't heard spoken about or hadn't heard that was already in the agenda, and just wanted to throw out and come out with a few questions that I felt this kind of posed to us as digital marketers. And are we in danger of overcomplicated our own personal, by that I mean by our own brands, our own businesses, ecosystems, and have we forgotten about the objectives we went out in the first place to achieve? So I think all of that stuff is great. Trying new things is brilliant. Trying new things is needed, and we have to push ourselves forward. But there is a lot out there, and there's a lot of complexity. So are we losing sight of that original objective? This was a real personal one. Is it wrong or just sensible to pause and take a look at the landscape and work out the best route most suitable for us to achieve our objectives? I think everyone's really, everyone's busy. Speak to everybody around, they're all saying, yeah, we're busy, we're doing lots of things, head down, trucking forward, doing everything we should be doing. But actually, sometimes it's better just to stop, stand still, have a look, take stock of what's going on, and actually see what is actually happening. Are we actually making the right moves? Have we learned from the data? Have we used the data we've gathered? Are we measuring things in the right way? Are we focusing? The previous presentation talked about page speed. I think that's really, really important as an element that actually gets forgotten in a lot of places. Things like that. Are we actually doing the things we should be doing? And actually, is it wrong just every now and again stop, look at everything that's going on, cherry pick the things we think are the most important, and take those forward? And how do we build a framework that will lead us through to success? There are different ways of doing it. Everyone's got their own way of doing it. And I think that's really important. It has to be individual. It has to be something that you're very, very keen on. I wanted to share some of the ideas that we've been working on the last few years around, or last few months, sorry, and years probably as well, around things we've learned and things we've taken from lessons that we've been asking ourselves these kind of difficult questions and thinking, we're prepared to ask these questions. Let's think about our approach. Let's think about the things that we're doing going forward, and put a bit of a framework together, which I was going to share with you. Can't share all the secrets of success. I think everybody's got their own versions of that, but here's a sort of framework. And actually, some of the themes I've been listening to today have come out quite strongly in some of these sort of points that we're going to cover now. don't forget the basics. Like I said, I think you've heard from some really good and really knowledgeable experts around search, especially some of the SEO stuff we heard about earlier, some of the PPC things that are going on as well, Google and Bing and the likes. And I think not forgetting the basics, I think, is probably one of the biggest lessons we've learned over the last sort of 12 months, 18 months in some of the activities that we've been running. I think you've heard today, like I said, there are tips around SEO, data structure, around some of the technical SEOs technical examples of SEO. I thought the stuff that Omi mentioned earlier was really relevant about, thinking about technical SEO, focus on the things. You don't need to make a huge amount of changes to make a big difference. I think the basics are really important, whether it's our PPC campaign structures, the bidding, the algorithms that we're using around bidding, or the scripts. Is it automated? Is it manual? Like I said, the technical SEO stuff, your shopping campaigns. Anyone who's working in retail, shopping could be quite complex, but it's very algorithmic based. How can you actually make sure that the setups are there and the data quality? I think it's fine to actually say, do you know what, the basics are the foundation of everything. If you want to be innovative, if you want to go forward with crazy ideas or build new plans to take advantage of some of the more complex elements, yeah, that's great. Don't forget the basics, though, because if you don't cover the basics, your business performance probably is going to drop, and you won't be able to achieve some of the things you really want to achieve. So I think it's fine to say, look, let's always take stock, reevaluate the basics. Are we doing the right things? Are we covering the right elements? Are we making sure that we're covering the things that we need to go forward? So I think that's really important. What data is actually of value? Can we access it? Are we using it in the right, correct way and the appropriate manner for running our campaigns? I think data is brilliant. There's loads of it available. Is there a little bit too much at times? Yeah, I'm not sure. There's a lot of it going around. I'm not just referring to data that we can and can't use based off things like GDPR. Big data is really important, but actually, multiple data points, collecting lots of information, that sounds great and it's brilliant. But if you can't access it, and if you can't use it, and if you can't apply it practically to some of your campaigns, what use is it? So ask those questions. Are we using the right data? Are we gathering it? Is it accurate? Is it correct? Is it suitable for purpose? Is it what we want, and can it help us do the job? I always challenge our teams in terms of this way, in thinking, right, big data is brilliant, but actually if we took small data and if we took small pieces of information that we can use practically and more relevant, we could probably drive better results. So while collecting lots of different bits of data and lots of third-party suppliers talk about big data and talk about lots of data points, that's probably relevant, but actually give us some small data, give us it structured, give us it quality, and give us it in a format that we can actually use it, i.e. can we access it by the API, then that means we can actually probably use it, which is great. Are we measuring what's relevant to our success? I think Victoria touched on this earlier, right now. Are we measuring things properly? As a retailer and as a business, we're looking at channel measurements. Obviously, we're looking at attribution that links into that, and that's complicated. It's not easy. Single source of truth, I think, is something that everyone is always looking for, and people think they found it, a bit of a holy grail. That's great, but actually it's quite difficult to knit all the various data points together to achieve attribution. So you've got to take a bit of a punt sometimes and think that what we're measuring is right. We measure a lot of customer data as well, obviously. How are customers performing? What about retention rates? What about channel and customer together? Which channels do well for customer retention? Which channels do well for acquisition? Which channels do well by different customer lifetime value models? There's lots of information out there, and you can measure pretty much everything, but make sure you're measuring what's actually relevant to your business, relevant to your campaigns. Otherwise, again, you're probably going to come up with the wrong results. And also, what's your hypothesis in the first place? Again, lots of data points, lots of data coming back is brilliant, but did you start off wanting to ask a question in the first place? What was your hypothesis? I think we maybe sometimes, we're all guilty of this. Like I said, this is a thought start, so this isn't a judgment, but are we just at the risk of gathering lots of information for our campaigns and thinking, brilliant, we've got it all, but we forgot what we were asking for in the first place, and therefore we've kind of lost sight of what we were looking for. So, measure what's relevant for the business, measure what's relevant to help you make decisions to go forward, and help you measure and use the measurements that are available that are as accurate as you can get them. And I think this, again, not wanting to sound sort of really, really basic here, but again, it's a real question that we kind of asked across the teams internally, because we're all guilty. I think everybody, we look at it and say we're guilty of being sort of busy fools. Everybody wants to be busy, and everybody is. There's lots of stuff, like I said, going on, and everyone's got their heads down, following the line that's going on the floor. Actually, are we spending time doing the things that are really going to make a difference? We start asking ourselves really big questions around where are we spending our time, and actually is it paying back? Almost kind of making a bit of a business case for where we were spending time, and was it actually worthwhile spending? Were we properly reviewing previous campaign performance, or were we literally moving from one segment to the next, one campaign to the next, without stopping and learning about what was actually happening and what the information was telling us? So we haven't gone off in a complete tangent. So I think that's something that's worth asking. Are we evaluating the right customer targeting? All the time. If we're a retailer, we're looking all the time to be who should we be targeting, who's the best person, where we should be spending our money, where's the efficiency we can be where are the efficiencies we can gain. We've always got to be asking that question. I think we don't want 6, 8, 12 different campaigns or 12 months to go past and we've gone, right, we were actually targeting the wrong people in the first place. Let's make sure we're asking those questions. I think that's really important. Selecting the right testing that we want to do. I think this is important here as well. We always want to be testing. I think by testing, you're learning. Sometimes you'll test things and things won't go that well, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're spending a lot of time talking about things and not actually doing much action, you're going to spend a lot of time thinking of an idea but not actually getting any learnings from it very quickly. And there's nothing wrong with testing. And then we talk about failing fast. That's good. You're getting learnings, you're getting information that can help you make better decisions. So, are we spending too much time talking about stuff, or are we just doing things, or are we not spending enough time actually doing things and learning by what's actually happening in the practical world? I think that's something we definitely have learned quickly, and it's important that we've actually been able to put into action and get some fast learnings coming back. Always thinking customer first and listening to the signals. So I think, audience-centric, customer first, these are really, really important, good buzzwords, and a lot of them are based off data. I think we might be hearing some of that coming next. I think that is really relevant. But for a business that has access to actual customers, it's amazing what you can get by actually talking to customers and asking them some information, using customer service, using different chatbots. We talked about AI and chatbots earlier. I think that's a real relevant thing for here. That's information that's available that can help us tailor our campaigns better, tailor our website experience better, tailor that experience for the user in terms of being able to retain them. People are giving signals. So while data points are great, customers aren't numbers proverbially. They're actually people and they have good opinions. I think where you can access that, where you can, if you're an agency, ask your clients, where can we access that? If you are a business, where can we gain that level of information? That's really, really rich source of data, and it's actually verbatim data. It's not necessarily data point data. So I think it's really important that we actually listen to our customers, and that helps us be customer first in our mindset. It doesn't always mean that they are transaction ID number 3456. That's great and that's fine. We can use that information, of course we can. But actually, let's think about what the customers are telling us, and that then helps us shape creative. We've talked a lot about sort of data and practicality, and search is that. It is very much structured like that. But there's also elements for the creative that we think about. The social creative we use that's tailored to customers. This is personalization, but it's personalization using real customer feedback, not just thinking what we can gather from data points. It can help us tailor our CRM content as well for emails, and that helps build up engagement, and that's great. And finally, the best strategies are often the most simple ones. I think strategy as a word is quite often used in modern language, and it's used in lots of different ways. And again, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But by definition, strategy is a plan of action designed to achieve a long-term or overall aim. We use the word strategy a lot, but is it linked to an action plan? Is it linked to a clearly defined goal, a set of actions that we are needing to take to achieve that goal, and what are the expected outcomes? I think sometimes strategy, like I said, we can think and spend a lot of time building a lot of information, a lot of stuff that goes into a brilliant, full end-to-end strategy. It's taken 6 months to do it. Actually, sometimes the best ones are the simple ones, where you've got a couple of simple ideas, you've got an action plan of how you're going to do it, you've probably got a business plan of what you expect the outcome to be, you know exactly how much you want to spend doing it and what you're going to learn from it. You can get it done in a short period of time and then move on to the next one. I think holistic strategies, of course, they're important, but actually, when you're thinking about a strategy, maybe next time think, do we need it to be complicated, or can it just be simple? What's our aim? What are the actions we need to do to get there, and what's the expected outcome from it? And stop actually trying it and seeing what actually happens. So I think some of the things that sort of I've covered in that sort of basic framework, they're sort of ideas, they're things that we're working on. Obviously, you guys will have lots of different views, but in terms of sort of not losing sight of the original objectives, like I said, it can be quite simple, but it is a complex landscape. It's a great landscape. It can help be creative. We can be innovative. We can be data-centric. We can be very technical as well, all in the same space. And I love that about digital marketing. But don't lose sight of the original objectives and get caught up in that complexity. Think about what's simple. All good campaigns are based off strong foundations. Remember the basics. Like I said, never lose sight that just because it feels basic, and we've covered it quite a few times, actually, the basics are really important, because you can get better results, you can drive efficiency, you can drive improvements just from some of the basic information. Follow a simple strategy and break down the goals and actions that you actually need. Quite practical advice, but maybe think about your to-do list you're going to get from today, and I'm sure there's going to be a long one. Break it down a bit. What's important? What's relevant? What can I use? What's not relevant? Because otherwise you're going to come up with some really good information, but perhaps thinking, how do I put it into the right framework? like I say, use the data that's appropriate. We're a data-driven industry, and that's brilliant. We can use that really well to our advantage. But use the data that we've got, make sure it can be accessed, measure it accordingly, spend time on the initiatives that you know are going to return and are going to add value, and that way you're always asking us questions, right, are we spending time on doing it? Time and energy is our most expensive sort of resource. If you're going to spend time on something, make sure you know it's going to have a value and payback. Otherwise, move on to something else that you know could then potentially have another benefit to your business as well. And like I said, if you're in an industry that's dealing with customers, being customer first means not just looking at all the data, but also means listening to what customers are actually telling you and thinking about what they can tell you that the data might not show you. This can help inform some of the creative decisions you use, some of the on-site experiences you use, some of the think about what Victoria was talking about earlier. If you get a lot of customer feedback telling you, I want to shop with you, but the page takes ages to load, then you know page load speed is an issue that you need to be thinking about. So customers can give you lots of valuable information coming out of NPS and those type of scores, and I think it's really important that people listen to that. Chatbots and customer service bots, they're becoming a lot more prevalent now. They'll give you some rich information that maybe you haven't even thought about before to use. So that's something I think I'd be trying to do as well. And that's it. Thank you very much.